Well, the bombs have fallen. And unfortunately, all I have is this hobo sack full of ammo. I raided a Walmart and I found a deserted RV and found a couple rounds on the ground. And so I've got a hobo sack of ammo. It's a good thing I've got my M47 Medusa. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm out here at the range today with a Rodgers & Phillips M47 Medusa revolver. And this is basically a Smith & Wesson K-frame with a special cylinder in it that allows you to shoot effectively any cartridge that is shorter than .357 Magnum and has a bullet diameter of .357 or less. So the official literature says something like 25 different cartridges. There's actually over 100 technically. The literature sticks to only 9mm or .38 caliber cartridges, but in reality you can shoot stuff with a smaller bore diameter and it'll work fine too. So what they did to come up with this, Jonathan Phillips, the two inventors were Roger Hunziker and Jonathan Phillips, but I guess Phillips and Hunziker didn't sound as good, so they used Rodgers instead. At any rate, there is a mechanism, the extractor in this revolver is substantially different from a typical one, and what it's designed to do is allow you to headspace both rimless and rimmed cartridges. So let's take a closer look. Let me show you exactly how that works. All right, so what makes this unique is the extractor mechanism. As you can see here, what we have are 6 little fingers, and these are they're all bendable, they're flexible. And the idea is if you have a rimmed cartridge, like a .38 or a .357, it's just gonna go in, it's gonna drop into the recess in the chamber here, and headspace on the rim like it should, like it's designed to. If, however, you have a rimmed cartridge, then you're gonna use this finger. That finger is going to hold on the back of the extractor groove, and that will hold the cartridge in the correct position in the back of the cylinder so that the firing pin will actually hit it. And they did actually have to do a decent bit of design work to make sure that the firing pins would actually hit and detonate a wide variety of cartridges. So we can demonstrate that here a bit. Here's a .357. Now, one of the tricks to this is instead of trying to ram these things in and push the finger down with the tip of the cartridge, if you pull the extractor out slightly and then push the cartridge in, it's much easier. So there's a .357. It has pushed this finger all the way down because there is no extractor groove to work with. Now we have a 9mm parabellum. Couple issues with this. This is actually, although it looks straight, it is a slightly tapered case. So that's going to present an issue that we'll get to in a moment. I'm going to push that in, and you can see that that finger is holding in the extractor groove. And then we'll actually just leave this. I've got a 7.62 Tokarev. This will fire safely because it will fit in the chamber like so, but it will blow the case out. And the bullet's going to be, well, we don't know where the bullet's going to go because it's just going to kind of bounce down the barrel back and forth since it's a .30 caliber bullet in a .35 caliber barrel. And then you can even do something as goofy as .32 ACP because, oops, let's try that again. Let me put the extractor down and then my .32 fits in there. It kind of wobbles a little bit, but it will actually work. One other element that they had to put into this gun is a double tapered forcing cone. Now the problem is you have a really long throat on pretty much all of these cartridges because, you know, a .357 is coming out to here, the 9mm is like half the length, and so a 9mm, a 9 parabellum bullet is going to have a long bit of free bore before it actually hits the forcing cone. And in order to maintain any sort of decent accuracy, you need to make sure that those 9mm bullets hit the forcing cone in the same orientation every time. And so by having first a slight and then a little more aggressive taper to the forcing cone, they're able to basically stabilize those bullets properly. So it's, in theory, fairly accurate as long as you're shooting a 9mm bullet. All right, the problem with something like this is while the concept is really cool and the manufacturing is fantastic, it's a very high quality gun, the problem is the concept just isn't really all that realistic. The fact of the matter is, really, there's only 3 cartridges, well, let's say 4 cartridges that would realistically fit this requirement. 9 parabellum, 380, 38, and 357. And of course, with the 357, you can already use 2 of those. And pretty much everyone out, the only group of people who are really going to be willing to pay significant money for something like this are survivalist types. Someone who thinks, well, in case of the end of the world, I need some gun that I can use to actually shoot a hobo sack full of weird ammo. Well, I think you and I both know that everybody who is serious about that probably already has at least one firearm in every one of those calibers already. And so they're not really likely to go out and buy one of these. And we see that in the reality of what actually happened to the company. They only sold something like 500, a couple hundred of these guns, and then went out of business. So this is a money where your mouth is sort of problem. A lot of people say it's cool and say they'd really like one. And then when someone actually goes and produces it, well, then people realize that, you know, my cat has tonsillitis this week, and so I have to pay the vet, and so I can't actually afford, but I will, and then they never sell any. So, all right, we're gonna do a couple targets here. I'm gonna go through my hobo sack of ammo. I'm gonna look for 9mm parabellum, and I'm gonna shoot an entire cylinder of 9 parabellum, and we're gonna see how well this thing actually groups with all the same ammo. There we go, 6 rounds. One of the downsides to this gun, you know, the upside is you get to shoot multiple calibers. The downsides are pretty much, well, most everything else. One of them is you can't really load this super quickly because you have to play nice with the extractors. There we go. It's 5 and 6 rounds. All right, and then, there we go. One of the other problems is you will get carbon rings built up in the chambers, just like you would shooting 38s and 357s. And so one of these is pretty sticky, and I'm sure I'll have to hit that one out with a stick after I've fired. Go. All right, I realized after I got those all loaded that one of them actually was a 9 Browning long. So now we have 6 rounds of 9x19. All right, let's go. This has a pretty nice trigger to it. That target is horrible. Wow. Dang, that was bad. I was expecting this to be pretty decent. It's a well-made gun. It's got a nice trigger. And my first shot was this one, which was awesome. And then these, and the last 2 aren't even on the paper. These 2 certainly appear to be keyholing. So, boy, I don't know what the issue is. Well, yes, I do. The issue is that there's like an inch of freebore before the 9 parabellum bullets hit the rifling. So this is, to me, one of the downsides of multi-caliber guns is you're going to be optimized for none of them. Or in theory, there should be one caliber, one cartridge that actually works well. Maybe it's 357. That's the longest. That's going to take the best advantage of the full length of the cylinder. Maybe we should try a target of 357. All right, the next issue is after you've finished firing, you have to eject these cases, and the ejector doesn't want to move, and you do not want to force the ejector rod, because really the only fragile part of this gun are those little extractor teeth. So what we're going to do instead is use a wooden rod, and we're going to tap each of these cases out gently. There we go. Oh, that one came out easily. So they all kind of come out easily. I'm just really hesitant to put any force on the ejector rod because these are really expensive guns, and this one is borrowed, and the company is long out of business, so if you break a part, you're just screwed. All right, 357 Magnum this time. We'll see if we can get any better of a group. This, by the way, is at 10 yards, so let's go. Thing has a lot more recoil, obviously. Well, that's definitely better. Take a look. That's a lot better. at this point, that's all me, that group. None of these keyhold. I think what we have here is an issue of freebore, and they were able to put some tricks into the design to improve it with 9 Parabellum and other short cartridges. 9 Parabellum also being a tapered cartridge, that's going to give a little bit of issue. 357 worked actually pretty nicely. Now let's try it out with a complete mishmash of 6 different cartridges on one target and see how close they actually are to each other. Alrighty, so now I've got a 38 Smith, I've got a 9 Largo, I've got a 357 Magnum, a 380, a 9 Parabellum, and a 9x20 Browning Long. You may notice that the one cartridge that you may expect here that is not in this batch is the 9mm Makarov. You cannot use that in this gun because it's not actually 9mm. That is a 9.2mm bullet, so not safe to use here. Don't do it. The other thing is, as the manual recommends, you want to shoot these cartridges, if you have a mixed cylinder, in order of length, the longest ones first. All right, there we go, a complete mix. All right, I loaded those actually backwards, so I fixed them, cylinder rotates counterclockwise, we're good now. So this will be a 357. And progressively getting lighter. That was the 38 Smith. I don't know what that was supposed to be. That was the 380. All right, so one of these did not fire. I think it was my 9 Browning Long. Let me try one more strike on that. There we go. That's actually not a bad target. I'm really surprised. Check it out. I'm actually really quite surprised at this. We have one round that keyhold, and then one of these had been a pasty that was shot out of the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm pretty impressed. I think maybe 9mm Parabellum is like the worst cartridge to shoot in this because of its taper and its really short length. You know. Now, the one other thing we can do is shoot cartridges that are less than 9mm bore diameter. So we're going to load up some 32 and some 7.62 Tokarev and see how those shoot. All right, last one is going to be sub 9mm cartridges. So we got some 7.62 Tokarev and some 32 ACPs. The 32 is kind of just barely held in place at all there. Alrighty, let's give that a shot. This will be fun. Okay, 10 yards, Tokarevs and then 32s. Failure to fire. I think I actually hit him. Let's keep shooting in the same spot. Actually, it wasn't quite as terrible as I was expecting, but that's about a 2 foot, maybe a 2.5 foot group at 10 yards. Because, of course, the bullets are kind of only bouncing back and forth off the rifling. Now, the fun part is looking at the brass after we fired that. So one of our 32s has slid down into the chamber. There we go. The ejector actually worked on this one. Our 7.62 Tokarev is blown out completely straight. And our 32, that one's not bad. There we go. That one's got a little bit of a bulge in it. That one's got a little bit more of a bulge in it. So you can do it safely, but I suppose this is in an en extremis sort of situation, which, again, sounds pretty sexy and cool when people are talking about it, but as a practical matter in real life, I'm not sure this ever actually is a problem that someone faces. I'd like to give a big thanks to Rob for loaning me this gun. These are not cheap. These guns are in excess of $1,500 or $2,000 today. And so it was very generous of Rob to send me this one. Let me do some shooting to bring it to you guys. If you enjoy seeing this sort of thing on the net, please do consider checking out my Patreon account. It's support from folks there that makes it possible for me to bring you cool guns like this every day. Thanks for watching.